The excitement in the camera community has reached another level as fresh insider whispers finally converge on what many have been desperately waiting to hear about the upcoming Sony A7V. A mirrorless beast that appears poised to redefine the mid-range full-frame market with a brand new imaging pipeline, next-generation processing, enhanced autofocus, better dynamic range behavior, and a redesigned internal architecture built around Sony's newest 33-megapixel partially stacked sensor, a huge shift that instantly places this camera in a completely different league compared with the older A7 IV, which, while competent, lagged behind in readout speeds, rolling shutter control, and video flexibility. Multiple trusted sources, 3 of them giving identical confirmations, have finally provided enough overlapping data to piece together a much clearer, more actionable picture of what this camera will likely bring, even though every detail should still be labeled as rumor until Sony officially reveals the device, a launch currently expected around December 2nd, though even that date remains unofficial. Still, the major headline is loud and clear. The A7V will not be recycling the existing 33MP sensor from previous designs but instead introducing a new, faster, more efficient partially stacked 33MP sensor, supposedly the highest resolution partially stacked full-frame sensor Sony has ever developed, giving creators more flexibility for photography, hybrid shooting, and professional-grade 4K workflows. While partially stacked sensors were previously seen in cameras like the Nikon Z6 III and Lumix S1 II at 24MP, this new 33MP variant pushes the category further, allowing higher detail, stronger clarity, and more cropping room without the penalties typically associated with higher resolution sensors. One major concern with earlier partially stacked designs involved reduced dynamic range at base ISO, particularly with Nikon's implementation. Yet Panasonic proved with the S1 II that smart engineering plus a dynamic range boost mode could eliminate the issue. Because of this, many expect the Sony A7V sensor to behave more like Panasonic's than Nikon's, offering clean highlight retention, smoother shadows, stronger ISO performance, and the type of color depth hybrid shooters depend on for professional workflows involving log profiles, HDR capture, and flexible color grading pipelines in post-production. Sources have not yet confirmed whether Sony will implement a dynamic range boost toggle similar to Panasonic, nor whether the sensor can switch between fast readout and maximum DR mode, but the expectation is that Sony will try to avoid the weaknesses seen in the Z6 III. Regardless, the new sensor architecture guarantees substantially faster readout than the A7 IV, which means noticeably reduced rolling shutter, cleaner panning shots, more accurate subject tracking, and improved video stability, especially for action, sports, weddings, wildlife, documentary content, and YouTube filmmaking where reliability and smoothness matter. And speaking of speed, the insiders have provided the second major confirmation. The Sony A7V will shoot 30 frames per second using the electronic shutter, mirroring the capabilities of the A1 II and marking a dramatic leap over the A7 IV. Though still falling short of Canon's R6 Mark II, which can reach 40 frames per second electronically. Some speculate Sony intentionally capped the A7V at 30 frames per second to avoid overshadowing higher-end models, but engineers could possibly increase performance later via firmware if the hardware allows it. It's also worth remembering that Canon's 40 frames per second burst is limited to 12-bit. Whereas Sony often provides 30 frames per second at 12-bit and 20 frames per second at 14-bit, meaning the A7V could potentially deliver higher color depth at competitive frame rates. For photographers who care about bit depth integrity, wildlife shooters, astrophotographers, and landscape creators, that matters significantly more than headline FPS numbers. Meanwhile, the mechanical shutter remains capped at 10 frames per second, identical to the A7 IV and slightly below Canon's 12 frames per second, though insiders claim Sony may have artificially limited it for segmentation reasons, not technical constraints. If that's true, a firmware update could theoretically increase it later, but Sony rarely boosts shutter speed through firmware once a camera launches. Still, the difference between 10 and 12 frames per second is tiny, and most hybrid shooters will prioritize autofocus accuracy, buffer DEP. rolling shutter control, and image quality over a small mechanical speed bump. For video users, the third major confirmation might be the most exciting. 4K60p with no crop, finally eliminating the frustrating crop of the A7 IV and unlocking full sensor oversampling for sharper, cleaner footage with much better low-light performance and fewer noir artifacts. Combined with the faster sensor readout, this means smoother motion rendering, better subject tracking in video, improved AF transitions, reduced wobble, more reliable IBIS compensation, and a more cinematic overall image. Features that content creators, vloggers, and YouTube filmmakers have been begging Sony to deliver at this price tier. Additional leaked details say the A7V will use the A7V body design, meaning a fully articulating multi-angle screen, improved ergonomics, better heat dissipation, the dual CF Express Type A plus SD combo slot configuration, updated IBIS rated around 8 stops, dual USB-C ports instead of the hated micro USB, and an improved EVF expected to exceed 5 million dots. A welcome upgrade over the A7 IV's relatively soft 3.69mm viewfinder. The new camera will also include the upgraded AI autofocus processor, dramatically enhancing eye tracking, subject recognition, and motion prediction for humans, animals, birds, vehicles, insects, and sports subjects, similar to advances seen in Sony's recent cinema and pro-level Alpha bodies. Pricing is rumored to land just under $3,000, making it more expensive than the A7 IV but significantly cheaper than the A12 or A9 III, placing it in an aggressive sweet spot for hybrid shooters who want next-generation performance without entering flagship pricing territory. For buyers who don't need 4K 60, super-fast readout, advanced AF, or high-speed bursts, the A7 IV will remain a strong, budget-friendly alternative. But for creators who rely heavily on speed, video excellence, and modern sensor technology, the A7V is shaping up to be the must-have upgrade for 2025. And with limited early stock expected, pre-ordering as soon as it becomes available will be important for anyone hoping to have the camera before the holiday season. Beyond specs alone, the broader appeal of the A7V lies in the entire Sony ecosystem, the vast lens selection, the third-party support from Sigma, Tamron, Viltrox, Samyang, and others, the accessory ecosystem, the color science refinements, and the reliability of Sony's autofocus pipeline. This makes the A7V not just a new camera but a major evolution of the Alpha platform, blending pro-tier performance with enthusiast accessibility. With more leaks expected over the next few days, including deeper video specs, oversampling modes, bitrate options, S-Cinetone updates, potential 4K 120p, overheating improvements, color science refinements, AF tracking demonstrations, and new AI-powered photography tools, the hype surrounding the Sony A7V is only beginning, and the coming announcement window will likely reveal even more unexpected upgrades that push this camera into the spotlight as one of the most important releases of the year for creators, filmmakers, photographers, and anyone building a professional workflow around Sony's mirrorless ecosystem.